Hey, Kris Krohn here, and I want to start by congratulating you, my brand new partner, in what it is that we are going to be building and doing together. You have not just joined me, you've joined an elite team of professional investors, and this incredible team has been working with me for years to provide the very best in investing. Now, you understand as my partner, there's a couple of really important things that need to happen. One, we need to actually meet up and we got to get face to face. And there's a few opportunities a year for us to do that. And you want to make sure that you get on that text thread or get with my team and get those next dates. And please make every effort to come to the next possible event because I want you to be front row with me. I want to connect with you. I want you and I to get a chance to meet because we're going to be doing this for a long time. We are not here to buy a property or two and then hang out for 5 years and then sell everything and call it quits. We're here to take a down payment on a property and over 20 years, turn that into millions of dollars. Make no mistake, there are things that you can do to accelerate or go faster, but the longer you play, the longer we win. So this isn't a 5-year endeavor unless you're bringing a ton of money to the table or you want to join my Maverick program. This is a way for us, you and I, to create something very meaningful together. So I'm very vested in you understanding all your options. All right, now check it out. There are 2 core ways that I tend to engage with my investors. One, we can go through the banks. You can, put up all the financial documents. We can get you pre-approved, and then ultimately come up with the down payments and buy the houses. And I have to tell you, it's more or less kind of your only job, but it also tends to be the suckiest job in our entire partnership. No one really enjoys digging up all that paperwork. And listen, it's worth it. There's a lot of money to be made for a few hours of gathering those financials and those tax statements. But you need to be aware of the fact that banks are unpredictable. They're always changing the rules, regulations, guidelines, policies. You might have a credit glitch that wasn't a problem here that becomes a problem with investing in real estate. We could get an underwriter at the bank that just woke up on the wrong side of the bed and get unreasonable and ask for stupid crap. But you also might have other challenges. You might have money sitting in a 401k or an IRA or qualified retirement accounts. You're like, man, if I pull that out, I gotta pay taxes, and penalties. And are there other ways? And I want to tell you that there is a second way for you to invest. It tends to be the more popular way, especially in this market. And we're talking about my private real estate fund. It's called Krohn Consortium II, the easier, faster, and safer approach to investing in real estate without personal credit. And if we are going to buy a property with your credit and you go into the bank, you got to put up all that financial paperwork and we will own that inside of an LLC. When you use the fund, everything becomes a lot safer, becomes a lot different, and I want to help you understand those differences today. Obviously, my team can walk you through what one-on-one LLC looks like, but the purpose of this little production is for me to help you understand what does it look like if you do leverage the fund, and I also want to share with you why I often prefer that approach, and it's because of how the real estate market has changed. First of all, let's just make sure we start on the same sheet of music when it comes to why you may have chosen to partner with me, or certainly why a lot of other people do. And it comes down to track record and it comes down to results. This is my specialty. And if we take a look at our 2020 partner results, we did a record number of single family home purchases. We averaged, even though we're looking for always 25% ROI, we averaged 34%. Let me share with you how meaningful that is. If someone were to invest $50,000 on a down payment on a property, and sometimes down payments are more than that, sometimes 70 or 90, but let's just say it was 50,000. Over a 20-year period of time, 25% compounds so that 5 years later, that one home turns into 2. And 5 years later, in general, 2 turns into 4. After 20 years of this, 25% can compound to $4.3 million. Well, a 34% ROI, man, that really supercharges that number, and it just means that you make that amount of money sooner. In today's market, if you've been watching my YouTube channel or if you've been out to my event, you understand that our ROIs in the future when we look back will likely, for the next 5 years, could be even a lot higher than this 34% number. Needless to say, we're killing it. We've done over $1 billion worth of this real estate. It's proven to be very COVID-19 resistant. And it also means that the real estate that we're buying, where we're buying and how we're buying and the standard of type of homes means that we have less problems than most people ever do in the game of landlording. We'll just put it that way. 2021 is definitely on track to be another record high year. I assume that the number is going to be bigger than this, and I think that those numbers are going to hold strong for the next few years. All right, let's talk now about the number one problem that I face, you and I, in our partnership. It comes down to qualifying. And that means that sometimes your credit could get in the way and it could produce a glitch. There could be banking inconveniences like, oh, I just can't please this bank. I keep providing all this financial documentation. It's kind of frustrating. That's part of the game. Or rapid acquisitions. Oh, you want to buy too many properties and the bank says, nix, we can't do that. So bottom line is there are challenges, but there's also really great workarounds. Check this one out though. This is my problem, not so much yours. In our current market, the deals are so good that even last week alone, the average days on the market was averaging 9. Well, I'm talking about a home not sitting there for months before someone buys it, 9 days. Last week, half of all inventory inside the United States got purchased. So my problem is that I have to find the really good deals and move fast enough, and that means that my offer needs to look stronger than the competition. And you know how you do that? It's right here. It's an all cash purchase. In other words, my lack of all cash purchases means that I can't compete as competitively as I'd like. Because remember, if we do this LLC thing that my team's talking to you about, and you're going to go and purchase properties by individually qualifying for a bank, you're looking at a down payment, right? A 20 or 25% down payment. But with a fund, I do have the ability to compete with all cash purchases. And that's a very important premise based on what I'm going to be sharing with you right now. So let's talk about this fund. It's called Krohn Consortium II. It's my private real estate offering. Let me break it down for you. Partners like you pool their funds together into this private Regulation D fund. It's called a PPM, a private placement memorandum, and it's for the express purpose of purchasing superior investment grade real estate. Because you can probably imagine, if I'm making all cash offers, I'm going to not just be the winning bid, but I can sometimes get discounts, I can edge competition out, I can get better deals. All of those things then become a benefit that I pass on to you. So let me share with you how this works. When all these funds come together and are collected, it's like going into a fund or like a company. We're going to do the exact same kind of real estate that we would do one-on-one, except that I get more advantages that I can pass on to you when we do it in a bit of a group style, not to mention that it makes it a lot easier for you. Here's how it works. When this fund is put together, the first step is these funds are used to purchase real estate cash. Now, if you buy a home cash and you don't have leverage, your ROI is going to go down. Even in this amazing market, we're not going to capitalize on the highest ROIs unless we have some leverage, right? We want a loan. But I don't want to use your credit because maybe there's a problem, or maybe you just don't want to. I just don't want to. I've got perfect credit. Well, the second step then is that I can take this all cash purchase property or the group of them, and I can secure commercial loans up to a 60% loan to value, and the bank will say the asset is on the line. We're collateralizing 40% of the equity in the house. In other words, we're not collateralizing your personal credit. No one's personal credit is involved with making these kind of commercial loans. So if we purchase cash and then we pull 60% out, guess what we're going to do with the cash? We're going to go buy more cash, and we're going to refinance up to 60%, and then we're going to buy more cash, and we're just going to rinse and repeat this process over and over and over again. Now here's what this means for you. As a result, all fund partners will collectively be at a 70% ownership, and I'm going to be at a 30% ownership to make up for the lower ROI, and this even will likely enhance it. I need to make sure that you understand what I just said. You see, we're in a 50-50 partnership. That's what happens when you go to a bank and qualify, and I identify the property, my team does all the work, and you're passive, and we're 50-50, right? When you put your money in the fund, because I can only go up to 60% loan to value, I need to make sure that that slightly lower ROI than a 50-50, that we not just match it, even exceed it. And remember, I need you incentivized to want to do cash deals if this is the path that you do choose to go down, which is why I'm giving you a bump in ownership. It is significant. And my belief at the end of the day, remember, this fund is new. It's not like I've had it for 15 years, but our belief is that these numbers will prove out in your favor and to your advantage compared to the normal 50-50 relationship. Now you need to understand both these options work, but here I'm here to make sure you understand how the fund functions. Okay, so let's talk about how we maximize this ROI using the fund, right? We're going to use my full acquisition and management team, and that's what we're going to use to maximize the ROI. I have brilliant, amazing people. I'm so excited for you to connect with them. Hopefully you're already enjoying them. You also need to understand that you've got my cell phone and my teams on there. Anytime you have a thought, a worry, a concern, you owe me a text. Drop that. Be a good communicator, because here's what we're busy doing in the meantime. It's not reading your feelings and emotions, it's doing this. I got a team of professionals, and we have this experience in building massive wealth through real estate for the last nearly 20 years. And what you're tapping into is our acquisition team, our accounting team, my legal team, my underwriting team, my property management team, my portfolio management team, my insurance team, many other licensed professionals. They're all key to maximizing and safeguarding your investment. On top of that, you need to understand this about the fund. You receive all these benefits at or below market price. The consortium maintains privileged relationships, allowing bulk discounts. These are charged as fees to the consortium. They will be deducted as business expenses for tax savings. So if you go the fund route, we will share with you the different fee structures that we need to have there to make sure that we can pay for the team that's doing all this. And you'll also get to enjoy that they are much lower than any other options out there, because this is you and I in partnership together. I don't want to be making any money on fee structure. I'm making money the way you do, profiting through really good real estate. Now, I want to share with you the 6 major benefits of using this fund, and then you can decide if this is really up your alley or not. Here they are, concisely stated. Number 1, we're going to be talking about perfect credit workaround, because obviously if we're not using your credit, you don't have to go through the painful process of constantly supplying documents to banks every time it's time to purchase or refinance. We're going to talk about increased optimized use of qualified funds, which means if you have 401ks or IRAs, qualified retirement accounts, that money can be self-directed and put into the fund without you pulling it out and paying tax and penalty. There's a ton of money savings under this Biden administration. It's a big deal. Number 3, we're going to talk about cash purchases, quick closes, basically better deals with higher ROIs. Number 4, easier passive approach for you, because it's a lot less work with the little work it even was in the first place. We're going to talk about diversifying risk, because it's not you and I just going out with an LLC and owning 2 or 3 homes in the beginning, or 5 or 6 homes in the beginning, or 10 homes. This is all of the homes are being purchased. So if there's a bad egg, then it has all the other amazing homes to cancel that out. It's a huge benefit. And then finally, number 6, we're going to talk about the potential for commercial investments. Some of the very best deals that I do can't ever get in the hands of my partners because I can't consistently provide those to them. It wouldn't be fair. So I reserve them for my private fund. So this literally has the possibility to give a significant bump in ROI, and that potential exists. So let's talk about all 6 of these. All right, let's talk about this perfect credit workaround. Unusable credit, if you've got the fund, that no longer matters. And by the way, it's not necessarily bad credit. I have very unusable credit. I'm a bizarre human to the banks. The banks want to see you got a job, you got a W-2, you got good credit, you got money in the bank, you're good to go. I don't look like that. I'm like, we'll have ownership in hundreds of homes over here, and I've got these things, and here's my restaurants, and I've got these commercial assets. I got all this stuff going on, and like, man, we do not know what to make of you, but we could spend 19 years collecting documents on you. And it is not an easy process, which is sometimes why when I go in for a really big purchase, I'm like, oh, screw it, I'm just gonna buy it cash. I don't like working with the banks either. Don't you dare ever complain to me if you ever have to go to a bank and supply documents. I know your pain. All right, also, international partners. I got people around the world doing this with me. You can't always follow US bank credit guidelines, so there's a perfect workaround. You've got huge inconvenience that you don't have to work through anymore. And then there's a huge reward. There's potentially higher ROIs. The fund is rigged with a higher ROI. I also can do deals with a higher ROI. So the whole game here of sidestepping credit is personally a game I love, and now I'm passing it on to you as well. All right, number 2, let's talk about optimized use of qualified funds. A lot of people don't understand that 401ks that are a rollover from past employment, maybe not your current 401k, but one from the last job or the previous ones, IRAs, whether it's you or spouses, for example, you actually have the ability to avoid taxes and penalties by rolling these through a third-party custodian that we can set you up with into what is called a self-directed account. And it avoids taxes, it avoids the penalties, and guess what? You cannot invest that money into anything you want. Self-directed means I don't necessarily want it in the market. I just want it in this account doing nothing until I can direct it into certain things. This PPM qualifies as something that you can move that money into. You can either liquidate, by the way, these accounts, or you can self-direct them. And I want you to understand that there are going to be scenarios where you want to liquidate and it will make sense strategically to pay taxes. As you get with my team, if you're like, hey, I really want to pursue this fund, this sounds amazing, and I understand it's going to be closing soon and there's a limited number of spots and I want one of them, let's go. My team will give you more of an understanding and more analysis on, hey, does it make sense to self-direct or not? And that way you can make the best choice on that. Okay, let's talk about benefit number 3, which is my ability now to do cash purchasing. Now, Krohn Consortium II follows Krohn Consortium I. This is not my very first fund. It's not my first rodeo either. In fact, for years I've been doing funds, but this is the most advantageous fund I've ever put together. It was so popular and worked so well for my partners that we've decided to roll out a second fund. You're also going to find out that I'm very limited in the number of investors I can put into it. And because my team sent you this video, it means that you are in a position where it could make sense for you to do this. Understand, however, that where this fund is different is for the first time I am including opportunities at some multifamily, commercial, and business projects in the real estate realm that have some superior ROI possibilities. Now, understand this. Cash purchases equal the best discounts, not better. Cash is king, especially in this kind of pent-up demand market. And banks may ask for increased down payments, but whereas we're just out there buying cash, we don't have to worry about that. Especially with money being so flush in the markets, getting the refinance, pulling that money back out, doing it again, it really is a perfect approach to this type of economy. And reality is I'm probably going to be doing real estate this way for the next 5+ years. So you're really at the cutting edge of something really big and really important right now. The fourth benefit is very real. It's an easier passive investment, right? I mean, unless you remember what it's like to go to a bank and you have to cough up bank statements and you have to supply them with, W-2s and pay stubs and these things, and then you have to write letters from your CPA about why did you do this one thing and what color is your spouse's underwear. I mean, joking, right? But kind of crazy the kind of stuff that they ask for. Here, there's no bank qualifying process, which for a lot of people, that's like the part that they dislike the most out of this. Number 2, it's less cumbersome. There's less details for you to worry about. If you're self-employed and you struggle to get loans, guess what, dude? I am all in favor of helping entrepreneurs like myself, like you. And so you don't have to worry about that here. This is definitely perfect for people that they're busy or they are naturally high stress. Like maybe you're high octane like me in your career and you're like, I love the idea of making this money in real estate, but I don't want it to come calling saying, go find, financial documents and figure this thing out and read this report. And lastly, you get to set it and forget it and compound it, which is really what this game is all about. So again, it's not perfect for everyone, but it's certainly ideal for some. Number 5 might be personally my favorite benefit because I'm all about risk analysis. And I know what it's like to have a lot of partners, and then you've just got that one partnership that bought 3 properties, and out of 100 properties, one of them doesn't rent the way that you want, and then it has a problem tenant. But if you're that partner that has 3 homes and you're one of those 1 in 100, it's easy to feel like you got the lemon. And it's easy to have a bad attitude about it and to, frankly, I need to do some mindset work with that particular partner. In fact, I say, come out to my event so I can help you have the right kind of financial mindset because we're still gonna win in the end. But in this moment, you're so new to the game that you don't really understand that your fears have come true of it took too long to rent and what happens if it got trashed and I had unexpected repairs. A lot of that gets mitigated when you diversify the risk with a lot of homes inside this portfolio. And remember, at any given moment, some of those homes are paid off cash, which means there's a lot of cash flow, and the other ones are only leveraged up to 60%, not 80, which also means higher cash flow. So there's dozens of homes instead of a handful of homes, which means that it averages out the risk better. And then there's a trade-off. You are going to give up individual control for significantly reduced risk. I would say if there was one reason why someone didn't want to do the fund is they're like, hey, Kris, in an LLC, it's 50% you, it's 50% me, and we call all the shots. And that is true. But remember, we're going to stay in this long term, and my job is to grow this wealth. It's to take 3 homes and turn them into 6, 6 to 12, 12 to 24, 24 to 48, 20 years goes by, and now you're sitting on a whole pile of money, and guess what? Even then, You don't care to have the control to end the partnership because now we're maximized for cash flow. And now it's generational wealth, and you're going to want to keep expanding and growing it and passing it on to the next generation. You're never going to want to get out of this thing. The scariest part is in the beginning when you just have a home or two or three, and I don't know what happens if you lose your job or maybe a child kind of goes off the deep end or you have to deal with something difficult and you need a quick 50 grand and you're like, oh, poof, I'll just liquidate my portfolio. I'm like, it's your nest egg for your financial future. I said, don't do that. That's not a good choice. There is some individual control. You can't put your money in the fund and say, hey, I'm calling a meeting with all the other members of the fund and I just want to take my money out this moment. It's and in a moment I'll talk to you about exit strategy, but you're giving up a little bit more control, you're massively reducing risk, and then also obviously you're picking up all these other benefits. Got to tell you though, this sixth benefit is one that certainly juices me. It gets me super, super excited. I've had mentors over the years, people like Dolph DeRoos that I'm currently actively working with on commercial real estate deals. And because I've been doing this for nearly 20 years, at the level that I've been playing at, I now have access to deals that are just so incredible. But these deals don't always fit inside the, well, Kris, you've done 5,000 single family homes. I'm like, yeah, I have access to some pretty elite opportunities. And for the first time ever, Krohn Consortium II gives you an opportunity to have a percentage of that money that could be allocated towards different commercial deals. And here's the two things I want you to know. I'm looking for deals that have a superior cash on cash so that when it comes time for growing the portfolio or distribution, it's very, very powerful. I can also then do that through multifamily, some commercial options. This is the only access point for my best non-single family deals. So for some people, they're like, hey, I'm here to win, and this perk means a whole lot more to me than, dude, I'll dig up paperwork, I'll work through a bank, but this is what I'm talking about. I want to get in on Kris's private favorite deals. All right, we're almost done. Let's you and I talk about growth and exit, because we're here to grow this thing, but there also has to be a way for you to exit should that time come and if you want to do that. I'm a long-term player, and I know what happens to wealth over time, but I need to give you some options. So let's talk about that right now. Understand that we're purchasing homes to maximize growth and cash flow. Growth is huge right now. Cash flow is not the highest priority on these single family homes because instead of a 25% ROI, even though last year we're looking at 34%, I think that we're gonna look back a year or 2 or 5 from now, and when we're actually selling off assets, we're gonna say, hey, we were doing a lot higher than that. And I don't wanna give you a number, I don't wanna put a number in your head. I just want you to know I think that number is significantly greater. There are in-year distributions to partners with optimized cash flow, which means that it's not like every month we're gonna be cutting a check, but in the year, there will be distributions. My team will give you details on that. You are gonna receive quarterly reports, all of the assets, their performance and what's happening. And then approximately every 5 years, we go in and out of markets. And it could be 3 years if a market shot up and we went out. It could be 7 years later. Approximately every 5 years, right? You need to have some flexibility on that number, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. As we move out of markets, it creates a liquidation event. It's an opportunity for me to go to partners and say, hey, we're about to go into this next exciting event, but by the way, if you are waiting for that opportunity where you could exit, now you can raise your hand and this option becomes available to you. And so that means that even though you should be thinking 20 years, successful people think in decades, even though you're thinking, I want to be in here long-term and create long-term incredible generational wealth, there will be opportunities for you to have early exits along the way because reality is, your life changes and you've got maybe some struggles or exciting opportunities or things that come up that I don't understand. So there are ways for you to capitalize on strategic exit points. Lastly, just understand the longer you stay, the better the benefits because everything compounds. Hey, thank you for taking the time. I know that this is there's a lot of technical information, but I understand what you've done to get to this table because this fund is not being made available to the public. This is being made available just to certain partners of mine. So I'm thankful that you took the time to watch this video. If you are curious about the next step, what does that look like? I want to share with you the participation criteria so you can decide, okay, well, this is technically what it looks like to participate. Do I meet that criteria? And then the next step would be talking to a member of my team. And they'll tee you up to talk with a member of my company that is authorized to share these details. You need to understand that everything I'm doing with this PPM and this fund, they are under strict guidelines of the Securities Exchange Commission. So we have rules to follow by. We take this very, very seriously because anytime you're dealing with someone else putting their money in any kind of group format, there are very strict rules that we need to play by and adhere to. So there will be a process for how you get educated further at this point. Here's what it looks like to participate. In general, there's a $100,000 minimum. And we certainly have people that put in a lot more than that. And then occasionally we've had to make rare exceptions for doing less than that. And you can talk to my team about that. You can use personal funds, you can use business funds, you can use retirement funds, you can also use IRAs and 401ks like we talked about without triggering the tax and penalty if that's the best strategy. I am allowed to take unlimited accredited investors, right? People with a net worth over $1 million or their joint annual income's over $250,000 a year. If you don't meet that criteria, and a lot of my partners don't, then you're considered what's called a non-accredited investor. And in this fund, I am very limited on the number of investors that I can allow in. So I want you to understand this so that when my team is making the decision on working with you, understand that this fund, the last one at the end filled up really, really, really fast. Real estate is going to be a hot, popular investment. I'm only taking on as many partners as I can provide full, amazing service to. This fund right now, because of how special it is, if you want in, let us know, and then you need to understand that we might be taking one of these precious seats if it's available. So that's why you got to inquire, right? I mean, I don't know when you're watching this in relation when I made this video, but you'd want to get with my team right away if you're interested in saying, all right, how many spots are left, and what does it look like for putting money in, and where might I source those funds to be able to put it in here? And then my team can really break it down for you and see if we've got a really great fit that way. Hey, thank you again for taking the time. Looking forward to getting in person with you. And with that, make a good choice.